If you've ever been faced with a uncertain practice body of water that you haven't spent a lot of time on or new water, I'm going to cover kind of what I did to prepare for this latest river tournament and kind of break that down. So that's going to be the main topic tonight on HellaBass Live. Wednesday night, October 11th. HellaBass Live presented by Arsenal Fishing and boosted by Powerhouse Lithium as always. What's up, everybody in the live chat? Lots of familiar faces. Good to see everybody piling in here. But that's gonna be the main topic is some of the sneaky stuff I do, especially on river tournaments, for researching tournaments and things I look for, and give you some specific things that I look for in the fall on the river, doing research before I even put the boat in the water. So we're gonna start setting up this tournament as everybody rolls in. I assume we sound good and look good on the YouTube, on the Facebooks, everybody wherever you're following and watching along. Lots of members in here. Tyler, Darius, Michael, Frank, too many to name off. Tom says we look good, sound good. So we had the final TBF Team Trail NBAA series on Mississippi River on October 9th, which was Monday. This is a rescheduled spring fling event from April, but was postponed and rescheduled due to water's flood stage being too high. The ramps were all flooded out. So it got postponed till fall, which I was pretty excited about. Partner Michael was pretty excited about if he's listening in the chat. Spring can be good, but the fall, I get to think about like sand drop fish, current fish, wing dam, closing dam fish, top waters, moving baits, swim baits, things like that, where the river really, they tend to chew. Nick, didn't see you down there. But so we were excited, thinking like this is going to be a fun time to go. This is a section of the river that I really like. I haven't spent a ton of time there, but I've had some success there. Almost won the TBF semis there in 2018. Lower water time of year. Pretty excited. Had some things to work around schedule wise. Wasn't going to get a ton of practice. So I opted to actually take the Camus down there on the Sunday before. I had one day where I didn't have some family stuff to go down basically, 7-8 days ahead of time. Got up early in the morning. Pete Hare was supposed to join me, but he bailed the night before, so I ended up going solo. Otherwise, I probably would have invited somebody to go with me. Launched in 5A, Minnesota City, and started like looking for stuff. And so I hadn't done my pre-research, we'll get to in a little bit, because I kind of felt like I had an idea what I want to do on 5A based on that success I had in 2018. First thing to get there, I've never seen the river this clear everywhere. Like I've seen pockets and sections of the river that look clear, and we'll get to that, Travis. We'll talk about the Camus. And anyways, out in the river and notice that things are clear. I'm in backwaters and I'm seeing like the bottom in 3, 4, 5 feet in places that I would never. I mean, like you'd have trouble seeing in a foot 5 years ago in the fall. So I was a little like, well, this is weird. This is different. Not a ton of flow, but there is some flow. Better than the flow we had a couple weeks ago down in pools 9 and 10 for the TBF semis. So check one spot, not much is happening. There's not much flow based on history. The next spot, right next to a spot that I'd caught them, like first cast with a top water, catch like a keeper smallie on a vixen, on a TK custom painted vixen, and then I catch some pike on a lipless crankbait. Kind of hop around the next point, don't get bit, and I kind of hop around, start hitting history, and it's not happening. These places that were good fall, like island tips, sand drops, current spots that traditionally have done very well on Pool 5A not really happening. And so hop around, scouting around, looking at weed edges. I'm picking up a fish here, some northerns, a lot of the northerns are chewing. Like I don't know what it is, but between the TBF semis on pools 9 and 10 2 weeks prior and this tournament, I've never seen the northerns this active on the river. And this clean water, they're just annihilating. I went through like a bunch of lipless crankbaits in the past couple weekends. Got a little expensive. Anyways, hop around, and I finally land on a series of wing dams in 5A where I actually get quite a few bites. Lipless cranks, Carolina rig, crankbaits, things like that. See some fish, feeling pretty good. Starting to like in an area that I caught them, kind of expanded some water. Nothing really awesome, but we're seeing some good like 2 to almost 3 pound fish, which are good river fish, and you can build off that. Start running more river stuff, trying to make a little loop to get back to the ramp. I have about 10 hours to fish on that Sunday. Um, hit some wing dams, catch a couple keepers, throw it up on plane. I'm driving down the river, and all of a sudden the motor just like on the Camus. It's like I pulled the kill switch. And I was like, that was weird. Because I've done that. Like sometimes when I put my visor on the throttle, like my kill switch will like wrap around that and it'll tangle and like get tension and like pop the kill switch. It's happened. And but I look, it's still engaged. I was like, that's weird. So I take it out of gear, go to start it, it fires right up. And I was like, oh, okay. I put it in like go to shift it in gear, nothing happens. Go to shift it in reverse, nothing happens. It's not responding. So I'm in the main river near Fountain City, if you know where that is. Actually, I can show you guys where it happened. This will be fun. Should we use let's see here. Oh, yes. Let me find where we are here. All right. Let's get the right section of the river. Mm. All right. Let's present, share the screen, entire screen. All right. Let's bring you into the situation here. So I launched down here at the Ferchota boat ramp. And my plan was to kind of like fish through current islands in here. And we're going to say goodbye to TikTok. And if you're watching, you can join us on YouTube. And fish current, work our way out, check the bottom end of the pool down here, get out to the main river, make a loop, and then come back in the backwaters um, and get back to the landing. Kind of look at the lower end of the pool. Maybe run up the pool a little bit here. So in the morning, I work through here, and this is about the end of the day that I am cruising up the river right about here. And that's when we lose. All right, it's the final layer. This year, the Bassmaster. Oh, that's not helpful. The ability to propel our boat with our outboard. So I immediately throw the Ultrex in the water, put it on constant, set a heading course for like up here, because I know that this chute here can return me back. And that's where I need, like, that's the fastest way to get back to the boat ramp. So, and then while doing that, I'm like going down the river and put it at like 7 or 8 because that's kind of more optimal where the batteries and the trolling motor run. Like 9 or 10, kind of you actually burn through energy faster in your batteries. Then pop the cowling off, I look and I can see the linkage is moving. When I move the shifter, the linkage does move. So it's not like I just something simple where like a little, the cable popped off or something like that on the Mercury. Anyways, nothing I can figure out on this new outboard is like way different than my old Optimax as far as like it's all plastic. You can't really see anything. There's not um so let it idle for a little bit to kind of let the running guns kick in. Looked at my app on my powerhouse. I had about 40% left on my dual 36-volt batteries. At this point, it's like 2 hours before it's going to get 2.5 hours where it's going to get dark. I figure I have enough juice to make it. As the crow flies, it was like 3 miles. I probably went over 4 miles, but I basically trolling motored from here all the way down this chute, came out here, cut through here, came all the way down to here, and then went to there. And the powerhouses got me from here all the way down here, through here, over here, and through there. So, testament to the powerhouse lithiums for saving my butt. I probably could have got a tow. There was other people in the river, but did a little fishing, threw a swim jig a bunch with the trolling motor on 7 or 8, covered a lot of water, caught a few small bass, caught some pike. But that so anyways, Monday morning, I kind of definitely lost a couple hours of practice there. Brought the boat into Intune on Monday morning, dropped it off. They ended up looking at it Tuesday. Anyways, there were some internal issues covered by warranty. Basically, the drive shaft snapped, and I never hit anything. So, but it will get covered. Intune has done an amazing job going out of their way to like get this thing like figured out. uh, but going back and forth with Mercury, it takes time, process. Now we have to wait to see how long it's going to get parts, things like that. So, no chance the Camus is going to be ready for the tournament. It's probably going to be out a couple weeks for sure. Clay just got himself a 99 Bass Cat. Let's get a nice little project you got there, Clay. That sounds awesome. Uh, anyways, so going to mode, calling around, checking with buddies. Good buddy Bill, who you've seen on the channel. He's often here in the chat. Let me use his Phoenix. He wasn't super excited about letting me use his Phoenix. I think if I wasn't fishing the river, he wouldn't have thought twice. But being that it was the Mississippi River, he was a little apprehensive. But uh, anyways, we worked it out. He was able to borrow it. Switched out a couple of his helixes. Uh, um, things like that. So I spent Friday night swapping things out in the boat, getting my tackle in there. I had to drive actually Friday morning. I'd drive up to Intune because I was not smart enough to take my stuff out of my boat because I didn't know what it was at the time. I was like delusional thinking it was going to be ready. So a lot of time spent. But Wednesday or Thursday night, I actually put in some time doing some research to give myself a little more because I knew practice was going to be cut short and I wasn't going to be running around as much and as fast with Bill's boat on the river and not taking as many chances. I was going to be a little more careful with somebody else's boat. So I need to be more efficient with my time on the river. I never hit anything on that prop. They just threw those ears on their own. Those props got warranted. Intune got those warranted for me through Mercury. So that was not a case of hitting anything either. His prop, spoiler alert, Bill's boat survived. It's in great condition. I actually shined it up today. It's looking good. Gave it a bath, vacuumed it, put vinyl conditioner on the seats, wiped it all down, put boat wax on it. Um, so anyways, let's talk about with I know the shortened practice and being split between two pools, we were going to take out a pool 6. Um, and I like to fish pool 5A. So, but I had my 5A practice wasn't real great. Michael was able to take his little sea nymph tin ring down on Friday, and he found some fish, but it wasn't still nothing like super exciting. So we'll talk about what I did here. So a couple things. So I guess let's just set the stage here. Like this time of year, as we get into September, I mean, even late August, this can start. But once we get into September and October, as much as I love to throw a frog on the Mississippi River, to me, the fish are starting to leave the weeds. The weeds are dying. Not saying you can't catch them, but to me, the most dependable fish and having the fish coming to you, I like to fish current, rocks, current, sand drops. Those are the things I'm looking for. So the good news is some of that stuff you can do a lot of research to find online. Island tips, things like that. And a couple things that I like to use here. So before we get into the super nitty gritty details, we're gonna have a quick word from the Dream Team.
Are you ready to reel in your next home purchase or refinance? Supreme Lending's Dream Team can help guide you through the entire mortgage process, from pre-qualification to closing. We have a wide variety of home loan programs in our tackle box, including down payment assistance and first-time homebuyer options. You can ask HellaBass. He trusted us to help finance his home. Contact the Dream Team today by searching Supreme Lending Dream Team or click the link below in the description or scan the QR code on your screen.
We're back. Thanks for the quick team. And actually, Aaron from the Dream Team was absolutely going to let me use his boat, but he was using it for the St. Jude tournament. So Aaron's a super good dude, and so if you ever where you're looking for a new house or a new property or a new house with a bigger garage for your toys and your boat, look up the Dream Team. But anyways, back to the. So what did I do? Uh, let's right there with that. All right, let's get back to. All right. So two things I like to use: Navionics web app, which is completely free. I know some of you probably have some of this on your phone as well. Um, things like that. There's a couple things here that I like to note. Um, Interestingly enough, so I don't know if you guys ever known this, but this little button down here, you can switch between Navionics and sonar charts. So I don't know if you noticed here, but let's look at this backwater section right here. Um, if you just have it on the regular Navionics, you get nothing. But if you click this little button here and click sonar charts, look at that. Look at those contours that now, in my understanding, the sonar charts, this is the stuff that comes from people driving around and uploading their information to the cloud. So this is more the user data. So, pretty big difference. And depending on the lake you're on or the river or the section you're looking at, if you don't go down and click that button, you could be missing a whole lot of information that is very useful. Um, uh, Navigation, deep water, different things like that. Um, so that's a good tip. It was a solid 2 hours on the troller, but the other nice thing about Navionics, it does show you a lot of wing dams, um, things like that. You see a lot of the Corps of Engineers rocks. Here's some closing dams on these channels, which are important for both navigation, but also for fish holding structure. It shows you a lot of the buoys. So there's a lot you can learn whether you're familiar with a pool or not. Um, so like even see here, top of the pool, right? Another section here. Navionics shows you nothing. Sonar charts shows you that there's potentially a pretty runnable section of river here for you to navigate um, in a boat. So then I mix that with Google Earth. So downloading Google Earth, and then when you there's a web version that's okay, but the key is to download, right? Then you can look at it at different times of the year and different conditions. So depending on what you're looking at, uh, you and what you're looking at, you may want to look at low, you may want to look at high, depending on what you're looking at. You may want to look at times of year where there's a lot of vegetation. If it's a summertime and you're trying to find out like where potentially, um, you know, slop grows and things like that, you may look at a time like this where you're going to see a lot of the pads and duckweed and things like that. If like me, I was looking at more from a uh late fall drawdown. I'm looking for sand drops. Things like that jump out pretty quick, right? So like at these low water times, you start to see where these sand pileups. Now this is 2021 and we're fishing in 2023, but you can start to see potential areas where these things manifest here. And these are things that you can mark and then try to go back and find. Like here is a pretty classic where you've got this chute and it piles all this sand, but then it looks like there's a pretty sharp drop. And this is not one that I actually fished, but this is one that I'd probably want to go back and look at someday. I mainly did most of this research on pool 6. Um, but what you can, so here I have this pool 6 folder, but I could definitely create a new folder here for next time. Let's say I want to, maybe I should have done some of this. Maybe I would have found, so this is pool 5A. We'll create a new folder. Oh, what happened there? That's not what I wanted to do. Yeah. Let's see here. Try again. Add. No. Add folder 5A. All right, there we go. We've got a folder now. So you can toggle them on and off. So what I can do here now, I can click this little yellow pin here, and I can put it approximately, and I can put multiple ones there, but I might say SD1, sand drop 1. Um, so what I can do is I can go through. I may also look at, you know, this is a pretty good spot here, but I could, just for sake of demonstration, uh, rock point 1, move this to here because I see that there's some, and I go back and look at Navionics, find that same location on the map. Let's see here, it's right here. So I can see that here's that rock. They don't really show the rock wall all that great here, but it is right here. There's some deep water off this point where these buoys come in. Then I can go back and look at Google Earth, show that there is depth there. So then basically I'm creating a list of waypoints that I can use and I can transfer to my Humminbird, Navion, or Lowrance, Garmin, whatever you got. There's some different processes on how you do that, but you can export these files. So different times of the year, you could be looking at different things. You could be looking for grass edges. You could be looking for pads. You could be looking for deep water holes, things like that on the river. All depends on what you're looking for. Um, so then you can see. So I did most of my research on pool 6, and I can toggle these on and off. But now you can see those are all the pins I dropped for different things on pool 6. and that allows me to be a lot more efficient to run and gun, uh, and look for these things versus just aimlessly wandering around all. I mean, like I think Clay said it earlier, like I'd be lost on that beast. There's endless amounts of water to just, and some of it you can run, some of them you can't. But by doing this research, you can figure out where you can run more safely, at least put the odds in your favor, or at least um, know what you're looking for and what you want to go versus just aimlessly, here's some sand drops where you can see that I potentially marked. These ones I end up not getting around to and checking. But the long story short is of these pins here, two or three of them really paid off, and it's where we caught most of our fish in the tournament. Now, some of these ended up being nothing, and I ended up deleting them. They didn't exist. I couldn't get to them. This one actually looked really good, but I couldn't have figured out a way to get back in there. When I went through here, it was too shallow to go up. It was too shallow to come in from the top. So some of them either are too shallow or they didn't exist or I couldn't find them. They moved, things like that. Uh, but basically, if you're basically what you do is you right click on this and save place as, and depending on what file you're using, I think you have to go KML for birds. And I'm not sure what the process is for Lowrance and Garmin, but then you have to convert the KML. There's like a free KML to GPX or something like that converter online, and then you have to put the GPX into the Hummingbird PC software. It's like a 5-step process, and then you load it to a card, then you can drop the card into your thing and upload those waypoints. I think there's less steps. You don't think you have to convert as many things. I think you can just convert to GPX and then put it into your Lowrance, something like that. But that's the gist of it. And you can do this on, you know, a lot of different things. Um, we have a tournament coming up Saturday on a lake. The Arsenal Fall Brawl is on North South Center, which I believe is this one right here. Um, so between, if there was something that I wanted to find, if I was, wanted to fish late fall, if there was a series of docks I wanted to look at, or I wanted to look at these shallow pad bays, things like that. There's features on this lake. If I want to explore, I could go ahead and label those and drop those into my unit. I'm not going to practice at all. So if I had an idea of what I wanted to do, right, I could mark things on this map, drop them in, and explore those things in the tournament. A lot of people like to do this with down south reservoirs where you get a lot of um, variation. So we could look for a time when the water was maybe really low, if that exists on this body of water. There's where it's iced over. Let's see here. You got this long point that trickles into the water here. We could look at that at different stages. So like at this watermark, you don't get a lot of detail, but different years you can see that this point actually extends quite a bit and there's different levels of vegetation on this structure. And maybe you can, over the years, you can see where pads do or not grow, different vegetation. So like here in this particular shot, I can see there's a pretty good thick grass line out here. So sometimes you can see where boats are, taking an idea of like where it's deep enough to run, things like that. You can look for inlets, culverts, where things connect to the lake. You know, this doesn't appear to connect, but right, you've got this body of water here. What if there was a little culvert? Maybe that would be a sneaky place for you to, to look around. Same thing here. Is there a culvert under this road? Doesn't appear there is. Do your Keith Poche, John Cox stuff. So here's a little pass-through bridge. You got a little neck down area. Now, this is you can get to both sides of this by boat, but maybe this creates a current situation if you have a strong north wind. Yeah, Poche could absolutely jump that for sure. Hmm. Places when the water was 3 foot low when I went there, and it depends. Some things do move. If it's like sand or clay, those things. Uh, yeah, some things newer reservoirs you can actually look at before they were flooded. That's not really a thing up where I live for the most part. Yep, sandbars, sand points, sand drops, they move for sure. But still, even if you hit on 20% of them, it's still a lot. I find that it was pretty well, the sand drops move, but it gets close enough. Usually you can see them when I get there. And if I find it doesn't exist or it's gone or it's moved, I will delete the waypoints on my graph. Sometimes I'll leave them if I think, oh, if the water's higher, it would be better and it still might be there. But um, so I try to edit the waypoints kind of live. What's up, AJ? But, that's kind of the gist of that, and then mixing in now with some of the lake reports from Omnia and some of the premium apps. The premium Omnium Premium Pro, looking at some of those layers of vegetation and things like that. That can all be good as well. So there's a lot of tools at one's disposal for lake research, and I do it more on the river than anywhere. I like to look at lakes and get a good general gist of it. I don't tend to mark a lot of waypoints on at least these northern natural lakes, but you definitely could. Um, but if I go down south to these reservoirs, when I go to the Ouachita River, when I went to Pickwick, when I went to, I go New Pools on the Mississippi River or Reach, that's where I spend a lot of time pre-populating my graphs with information to hunt down. Um, and actually, I found when I do this, I usually have pretty good tournaments. So maybe I need to do it more often. Um, so fast forward to the actual practice. I get there, so I went to my daughter's soccer game in Hastings on Saturday morning. Didn't end up leaving there till 11. Maybe it was almost noon. Didn't get on the water till like 2 o'clock. Launched in pool 6. Started running some things. Things weren't, couldn't get to them. They were too shallow. Got into an area where I marked something, and it ended up being uh, different. Actually, the sand drop was there. It had shifted a little bit, but it also got me in a location where I ended up fishing a closing dam. And I did catch a fish on the sand drop that I marked, but then I went out to the island tip and I was throwing my lipless crankbait and like, and this is probably like 4:30, 5 o'clock. And I've been out there a couple hours, caught a couple fish, nothing too exciting. And like throw out the lipless and it loads up for like a second and pops off. I was like, oh man, I don't know. Was that a bass? Was that a walleye? What was it? Is it a northern? They're super active. Next cast, catch a 3.5 pound smallie. And I was like, nice. So that was like 2 bites. I was like, that other one was probably a smallie. And so then I just pick up top water because top water is usually good this time of year. And just start going down the rest of that wing dam. And I have a largemouth come up and like, or I have another bass or a fish come up and grab it, and I get to the surface and it's like a 3 pound largemouth. He shakes off, and I'm like, nice, we're out of here. Beep beep, coming back here. So I had a sand drop just down, and then we have this wing dam, 3 bites, or at 4 bites, saw 3 bass, feeling pretty good. That was probably the best like size and concentration of fish I saw on that first Saturday night. Had a couple other bites in the pool, kind of sporadic. Kind of checked some other stuff that looked good, didn't pay off. Um, got stuck on the sand a little bit, trying to idle over some island points right before dark. Had to get out and push myself off the sand as it got dark. Uh, and then got up early, was up on pool 5A, where I really thought we were going to fish. Um, Started running stuff, checking stuff. Wasn't happening. I was not getting hardly any bites. I almost lost one of my custom TK Vixens. I had a fish on a wing dam come up and eat it. And I don't know if it was a pike that hit in front of my bait or a bass or whatever it was that grabbed it and then just pulled it across some zebra mussels, but it like broke off like instantly. And I was like, oh man, this lost one of my custom OG Vixen custom paints. But I looked around, it floated back up, so I was able to recover it. Crisis averted. So I still have it. Tied it back up and fished around that morning. Fished around, not many bites. Lost a couple more lipless crankbaits to pike. Picked Michael up at like 9:45. We caught a couple fish, checked some things. Really wasn't happening. Went and rechecked a couple of those like really key wing dams that I thought were the best stuff I found the Sunday before, and I caught like one barely keeper smallmouth. And I was like, So like I don't know, 1 o'clock we pulled the plug, went down to pool 6, started running the rest of the pins and dots. Uh, we checked a couple island points, and then the very first one that I pulled up on, we catch a couple shorts, and I get a nice solid keeper on a jerkbait on a sand drop. And I was like, nice, homework paid off. Like, found some fish the first night, like first dot that I went and found paid off, looked good. So I was like, all right, maybe we can make this 6th thing work. On my Vixens, Travis, I like 40-pound braid with like a 10, 12-inch, 17 to 20-pound mono leader. So then these other sand drops we had were like further back in the backwater. So we ran a little bit, but then I started like idling around because I wanted to be safe in Bill's boat. And a lot of misses in a row. Weren't finding anything. They weren't there. They were too shallow. They were dry, things like that. But then finally, and we caught a few fish, but nothing that I could pin down that I really want to go to. And then finally, we pull up on this one that looks really good and didn't get bit. I kind of ran over, parted with the trolling motor. But then I had like one fish, like a decent looking, I couldn't tell whether it was a smallmouth or a largemouth, but a pretty good sized bass followed my lipless up to the boat. And then I think Michael caught a short. And I was like, you know what? We didn't catch him here, but the wind's going to blow harder. The current's going to rip over this harder tomorrow. I think this is worth coming back to. And it was in a place that I felt like we could safely run back in there and get there pretty quick. So, starting to run out of time, we peck around a little more. We had to be off the water by 6. And so we ended up with basically finding 2 spots that night. And I found like 1 or 2 spots on the first day. So we decide we're going all in on 6. It wasn't worth locking up. We run straight to that first spot we found, which was a sand drop and a little bend. And we get there in the morning and we catch a couple shorts. We catch like 5, 6 shorts, but nothing close to measuring. We caught both smallmouth and largemouth. And I was like really surprised they weren't there. But we thought, well, maybe when the wind picks up, it'll push better. We'll come back here later in the day. So we hit a couple other random things, kind of more obvious, like main river current stuff on the way down to where I had those better fish. Michael caught a good one on a topwater, like a 2-pound smallie that, probably 45 minutes in. It basically was our second stop. So we had one fish in the box. And then we make our way down to where I thought our best chance at catching a good bag was, and we literally like didn't catch anything. Had like one nibble, and we spent a lot of time fishing around, fishing the closing dam, fishing the grass, fishing the sand drops, adjacent wing dams, hoping that we'd run into them where they moved. Didn't happen. So then we run to that last spot So we work our way back up. I hit a couple more obvious things and things that I thought looked really good in tournament that I thought should pay off, but they didn't. They didn't really work. So we get to uh this backwater sand drop, and I decided the water's so clear, I'm gonna fish a jerk bait. The lipless bite didn't really seem to be this great with the super clear water. And we're fishing down, like covering like this is a pretty good sized sand drop. It's got like a curve to it and a couple bends, and like it's the fishable sand drop is probably mm, 200 yards long with a couple bends in it. Um, and so right about when I get to the point where uh had that follow, I hook up on a fish, catch like a 2 pound, 15, 16 inch largemouth on the jerk bait, throwing a regular diving re-range, and kind of a chromish shad color. Number two, but this time it's probably like by the time we get to here at this point in the day, it's probably 10:30. Like a lot of time has elapsed to get that second keeper after having the first one at 7:45. And I catch a short or one that's maybe like 13 and 7/8. I don't remember. Like I catch some short fish. Michael catches some short fish. We work our way all the way to one end. I have what looked like a pot of fish followed up, and I thought I saw a keeper there. We go back the other way, get on the other corner of the sand drop, a little further up from where we started, and I catch like, I don't know, 8 fish in a row. One almost measures. With that one, there was one following it, and I was like, man, this is. So then we work our way up. That past that, it kind of gets shallow and weedy. Come back the other way. I put on the silent 3 hook Dreamwalker, and I actually catch our third fish today, a long, skinny smallmouth. So now we have 3 fish, and it's like 11:30. And I was like, man, like I don't know what to do. Like, I mean, we need bigger fish, we need more fish, but like part of me is like, I don't want to leave fish to find fish. Like this is by far the biggest concentration of bites we've had all day, and the wind's starting to pick up, and so I pick up a chatterbait, start moving down this, and I actually catch a nice like 2.5 pound largemouth. That's number 4. And I was like, all right. So I'm kind of like feeling like, okay, maybe we can go try run some new stuff at this point. We can probably pick up a 5th fish somewhere. We need bigger fish anyways. So make one more pass down. Uh, and this will make a pretty good clip in the video, I think. Like I'm like down towards the other end where I had that follow on the jerk bait, and I'm slow rolling the chatterbait, and I see something follow it, and I just like pause, and the fish kind of like comes up, grabs the chatterbait, just like holding it next to the boat, and I just like lift and swing, and he flies off and hits Michael basically in the back and falls in the bottom of the boat. 14 and 8th, number 5, nice. Um, So like we fished a little bit more, and they're like, all right, we decided let's go run. We'll go fish some of those sand drops on the lower end of the pool, or the things that I marked. We'll just go explore. We'll try some things. So when we left there, it was like 12:30. So we gave it probably an hour checking other stuff down the pool. I ended up catching 2 or 3 smallies on a bladed jig. None of them would keep, or they kept. They just wouldn't help. Yeah, that's our insert 5 bass limit. That's right. Um, but things have been tough, and I'm like, there's some locals in the tournament that are definitely going to catch them, but I'm like, I don't know. I think there's going to be some guys that are going to struggle in this tournament. And at this point, we're fishing for a check. We want to fish to win. We were second team of the year points. We were hoping to close that gap and win team of the year. So we were very focused in this tournament, and so we run some new. So we were willing to gamble because we knew we needed some bigger fish to if we were gonna have a chance to win. We needed to get some 3-pounders. So we ran some new water that we hadn't practiced versus like rerunning stuff right away. Caught, like I said, a couple keeper smallmouth that wouldn't weigh more than the keeper largemouth. They were just long and skinny. Revisit the sand drop in the wing dam where I thought I was going to go down. fished it much quicker. I did get a nice, like, long, healthy, not it's kind of long, good looking smallmouth on the lipless crank out on that wing dam, but he was way skinnier than the ones I caught in practice. Like, he was not. I mean, he definitely culled that squeaker largemouth, but he still was only two something. He wasn't the 3+ pounders that were there in practice. Tried to slow down, tried a bunch of things, tried Carolina rig, tried jerk baiting, tried different angles. And anyways, so then we like, all right, we ran back, tried the limit spot, caught a couple fish there, none of them helped. Then we returned to the starting spot. The wind is whipping around the corner. There's a little more movement there. Um, and we start catching fish pretty quickly, but they're short. And then I catch one on a jerk bait that's like a 14 and a half. It I think it gets rid of that skinny topwater smallmouth. Um, or maybe it calls the 14, and I don't remember exactly how it all worked, but it was a small upgrade. I got rid of one of the fish. It was maybe I had to beam it. It was probably an ounce upgrade. Um, to my knowledge, the one that was hit by a lure this year. Yeah, things are going your way when you swing a fish in the air and it falls in the boat, for sure. So then we catch a few more fish. We see some fish following. Like, Michael catches a short, and there was a better one following it. I tried to like drop a little Kitech on its head. Didn't follow. Um, I remember what I was doing. Then Michael hooks like. Anyways, long story short, we're catching shorts. Michael catches a pretty good one on a jerk bait. It's like 3 pounds. It was like a nice call, like a solid pound call. Um, I hit AJ. I don't remember that. Sounds like a love tap. Um, and then we're trying to grind it out. We're running out of time. We had one other spot that I kind of had saw the spot that I got hung up on in practice idling. I wanted to go back and chest that sand drop, but we were like still getting bites there and getting some follows. Yeah, I didn't wasn't feeling. I don't know. The bite was tough. I just couldn't. I wasn't prepared to like bring out a a glide bait. And anyway, so then we go back up to the other side of it where the wind's whipping a little bit. And the tricky thing up there was like this big overhanging tree that was kind of in the way, and there was like grass hanging out of it, and like a bunch of like floating grass and duckweed kept blowing through there, so you couldn't really fish the top of this sand point like you'd want to. Anyways, I catch a short, and when I see it coming in, there's like a wolf pack of like decent, good keepers, and I was like, man, why wouldn't one of those ones eat? And then so like we only have like 5 or 10 minutes left, and we're trying to work our jerk baits through them. We keep seeing the fish, and I have my jerk bait like come out, and there's a little piece of grass hanging on it, but I can just see like these fish like right below it, staring at it, and that just fiasco. We couldn't catch any of them, but they were all like good fish, and they probably would have called at least two or three of the fish that were in our bag. But we had to go. There was it was like we had to be in at 3, and it was like 2:52 when we left there. We had to like maybe I don't know. It was really late, and when we had to idle and no wake zone and all this stuff. So it was exciting till the end. Probably should have got to the top of that point a little bit. I don't know. A little bit of time management could have made that go a whole lot better. We ended up with 12 pounds and change. The big fish that we had was 3 1/4. That was the last one. So Michael got us started with the first keeper and the last call. That put us in 4th place. We got a check. We basically were the top finishing team that weren't the local jackpotters in the tournament. So we beat all the regulars in the team series. But with drops, we ended up staying in 2nd team of the year. It was looked it up. The Neil and Neil, congrats to them. They won Team of the Year based on the rules and the drops. I mean, last year we got a prize for like fourth in Team of the Year, and we skipped the tournament. So last year the drops worked in our favor. This year the drops worked against us. I think our drop tournament was in eighth place, and their drop tournament was in 19th. So, and they ended up beating us by 3 points with the drop. So, but all of that not possible if I don't do the Google Map study. I don't think we get on those fish, and we probably have a pretty bad tournament, if I'm being honest. And Bill's boat survived. And Bill was gracious enough after I cleaned it up and washed it today and shined it up to let me use it Saturday on North South Center in the Arsenal Fall Brawl. So one last turn. That's probably the last tournament, considering that I'm not sure when the Camus will be ready to join us again. So Intune's doing all they can, but they can only do what they can when they get parts. So we'll see. So that might be the last tournament on Saturday. A lot of me rambling. What does the chat have to say? Greg lost a rattle trap. That's a bummer. Yeah, it's nice when you can't make all the tournaments. When you fish them all, then you don't like the drop. But Trevor said he's found the Omnia Premium Pro mapping to be pretty helpful as a kayak angler. Yeah, as odd as it sounds, researching on the computer, your phone apps can definitely create a where you're catching more fish while you're on the water. Hmm, that's weird. I wonder if it was just older data, Clay, where it was consistently off. Hmm. Or maybe that was just '08 satellites. Maybe when you're going back that far, the satellites were just off. Because I know there was a time where they like, didn't they the military or something like that, and intentionally keep them slightly off for some reason. Imagine a elite drop. Did they do that in the COVID year? I think they did in the COVID year, just figuring people would probably miss a tournament. But I think that's the only year they did that. Let's see here. We do have the new Omnia code, OMHB 23 OCT. For those that still need some fall fishing goodies, the Arsenal code's still working. I do like the Arsenal glove for the fall. They're not only protect your hands from UV rays, but they're just warm enough to keep the edge off. I find in the fall. So, uh, the other thing is like you can use a little Arsenal bands to like keep your Kitex on your hook. I've been using the same Kitex since 5 fishing days ago that TK rigged in June, and it's still on the same head on the same bait. So, if you don't like burning through Ktex at a high rate of speed, I've caught probably one that I've caught probably 15 or 20 fish on using a little band to keep it on. Yeah, there was like four guys huddled around a laptop at the end of the day, cramming to figure it out uh, with the drop. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like Omnia doesn't like to keep things from Arsenal in stock. I don't know what that's all about. There you go. Greg just used it to replace his trap and a few other things. Glad to help you out. Much appreciated, Greg. I do have a bunch of tournament videos to get out, and that is on my radar, but I have been trying to be more present with my kids' sports and with my daughter being in JV and also participating in varsity soccer. It's taken up a ton of time. but there are tournament videos coming. Not as fast as I want. If you do know a young up and coming video editor, have them contact me on IG or Facebook or something, because I do want to hire somebody that is motivated to do video editing. I want to create a partnership with a young editor that wants to learn some of the ropes and maybe get out and do some fishing, and I will pay them. But I need to find the right person for that so that I can get you guys content faster, hopefully make better videos, and just get more content out. And then I can have more life balance at home with the family. Absolutely, Gator. So, but when I'm not fishing on the weekends, when the water freezes, I'll definitely get caught up on that. And I want a better system going into next year where I have somebody that can help me with the tournament videos so we can get them out in a timely fashion. So that's the plan. And then I can still do the fantasy videos and the live streams and the little like talking head tip videos, but the big time suck of the tournament videos, I can hire that out. It could be young females as well that are interested in outdoor video editing, fishing content as well. That's not limited to just young men. I'm thinking like high school anglers, college anglers looking to make some extra cash, people that have time on their hands to learn, things like that. Not people like myself that are old and slow and have day jobs and obligations and their own kids and sports and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, the weights overall were tough. Wyatt Stout and Bart. Bart went to college there. Wyatt lives down there. They had 17 pounds. They made it look real easy, but they said it didn't come that easy for them. And then even Randy Wachorik and the other local, they only had like 13 pounds and 12 just below us. So like it wasn't like an amazing. I thought it was gonna like when I envisioned the fall tournament, it was like you start to think of like the fall in the river. You're thinking like, man, how are we gonna shake those 2.5 pounders off our vixens and shower blows so that we can get to the 3 and 4 pounders. uh, that's like what I envisioned. But what else is? I don't didn't have a lot else on the agenda. We got the final tournament for the Open starts tomorrow. Clay has guaranteed us that Ben Milliken will not make the elites, I believe, based on where he's at. Right, Clay? Correct me if I'm wrong. George, this was take out 6, so it was 5A, 6, and 7. There were a couple people that went down to 7. There was definitely people that went up to 5A. And I don't know how many people stayed in 6, but yeah, I think there's like 4 or 5 guys that are pretty much locked in. Like there's like 2 or 3 guys don't have to even catch a fish. There's another 2 or 3 guys, if they catch a fish, they're probably in the elites. And then basically those last 2 or 3 spots are up for grabs. And there's probably 5 or 10 people that have a shot at catching them. Spooky Spooks dropping tomorrow on Horseshoe Customs. Is that what we're talking about? Watch the Horseshoe Customs Instagram to get the scoop, I imagine, AJ. I'll try to repost it to my IG story as well. I think Bobby does pull it off. He only has to make up a handful of points in a couple spots. He's in what, 15th? So, I mean, I think if he can get a top 10, he makes it happen. I think he has a really good chance. And there's a couple other people. But there's really only about the thing is like it's not the points separation for some of these guys, the fact that there's really only about 3, 4 guys that can even fall out at this point. And if you start getting farther back than 15th, then you also have to have 11 through 15 falter, right? There are guys, I mean, in theory, Ben Milliken could win the tournament. And if guys in front of him just catch him okay, he can't pass him. Yeah, the pools basically are the sections between the locks. Yeah. So pool 2 is like St. Paul Pool 4 is Wabasha. Pool 7 and 8 is lacrosse, and so on and so forth down. And then like I think like Fort Madison, Iowa, where the elites were, so it was like 18, 19, something like that. So I don't know how many total pools are. I don't know what it, like if they still go that way when you get down to like Memphis and New Orleans and all that stuff. I'm not sure how that works. Yeah, Sam George right there. Man, somebody hacked your account, Malone. Yeah, that's the thing is like there are some good dudes that you don't want to see fall out, but there is going to be some turnover for sure. So follow along on bassmaster.com tomorrow. See what your favorite anglers are doing. And it should be live on FS1 on Saturday. I will be fishing the Arsenal Fall Brawl, so I won't be watching it. Gonna try to get my jig on. Jigs for pigs. Hopefully they really start to chew here pretty soon. What do you think? Are we saying what do we think the big bag at the open is? I think somebody gets a 27, 28 pound bag at Harris. The Bass Nation Championship is next week. That is where is that? Hartwell? Yeah, Hartwell. Big bass, 9 pounder. So I'm gonna catch a 9. That's my prediction. Yeah, a couple of hook setters, Jay Swanson and Miles, I think, are representing Minnesota at the Bass Nation Championship. I know Adam Hammond, who went from Iowa, is going. He went to the Watchtower River when I was there. Oh, Clay thinks I'm spot on. Thanks, Clay. Clay's so active on BTL, he gets free stuff now just by commenting. He's so big. What else do we need to talk about? Any other questions? I should do more show prep. Hmm. What do we have here? 50 some people hanging out. You would think people would know how to practice for a Bassmaster Open by now, but maybe not. Timander says only 7.9 on the big bass. We should have AJ on some week so he can tell us his big life news. I feel like Harris is a really interesting dynamic place to finish up the season, being that you have like what is it, like 8 or 9 lakes and all those canals and locks, and it can really like your tournament can really be made or broken based on where you decide to fish the first day. Thanks for stopping in, Clay. We probably aren't going to go real late tonight. We had a late start. I don't know. We're just over an hour. People don't have questions. We might wrap this up. Keep her tight. Get some stuff done. Maybe edit some videos before I go to bed. That'd be a novel idea. We do have a little juice in the cup to finish though. Tom says, down by St. Louis is Locking Dam 27. Canning, that's the announcement you'd like to make, AJ? Got it. Michael Bradley. Yeah, it's going to be chilly this weekend. 10-day forecast doesn't look all that amazing, but that is pretty typical for Minnesota, to be honest. Why is PB&J so dominant on the Ozarks? I don't know, but I don't have a lot of confidence in PB&J. I know there's a lot of people that love it. There's people think it's overrated. People think that it's awful, but I have not caught a ton of fish on PB&J. So Bill's boat, I want to say, is a 2013 20, what is it? XP Pro? Does that sound right? It's quick. It's Bill's boat is a nice boat. And it was pretty calm on the river. There wasn't a lot of waves. So, but Bill's boat is a nice boat. It is definitely, I would say his boat is a little. I noticed a couple things when I put it in the garage. I think it's narrower than my Camus. It doesn't sit as high as on the trailer. Um, so I think it's more shaped like a 721, if that makes sense. But a 20-footer, it scoots. Like I didn't really like hammer on his boat. I got up to about 69 and just like felt like there was more there on morning takeoff. Definitely quick. Um, but there's a lot of things I like. The one thing I don't like about his boat is the situation of the oil reservoir fill. It's right next to the carpet, so if you have any kind of burp or spill or malfunction or funnel mishap, you're gonna get oil on your carpet. Overall, I like the way that it's set up for most things. There's a lot of nice features. The older boats don't have as many cup holders, but the tackle organization I like. I would probably take out the rod tubes in his port side rod locker. But overall, I really liked fishing out of the boat. It's good. Um, AJ says PBJ is a scam. I definitely think that a teen year 20 XP or whatever they are, it would be a really good boat to have for sure. Um, I don't know. I don't. They caught all largemouth. They spent a fair amount of time fishing smallmouth, but they had all largemouth. I kind of feel like they were mostly running Wyatt's stuff. Um, so I don't know what Bart was doing in the St. Jude, and I don't know necessarily what they were fishing. They caught half their fish in five, or 3 and 5A and 2 and 6. Hackney says throw PB&J in the morning, always in the morning. Yeah, I didn't really let her rip. I just I put on my river prop, which has got a few dings in it, so I didn't really want to like just crank it up. Didn't want to put any stress on his lower unit, so I just um yeah, kept it pretty tame. I was mainly cruising around the river. Uh, there's really no age lost in tackle. I'm more looking for somebody that's ambitious, that has a little bit of skill in editing, and that would like to make some side money doing editing. So there's no age, but just somebody that can like commit to like if I gave here's going to be the I have a 10 tournament video season, come up with a 10 tournament contract, here are the dates. If I get you the footage by this day, you need to commit to having the video edited, within whatever we agree upon, 5, 6 business days, um, that kind of stuff. So somebody that has that flexibility and time that could do that kind of stuff. I think you should can some asparagus, AJ. But if interested or know somebody that's interested, lost in tackle, send me a note on Facebook or Instagram. We could talk. I'm so behind on my editing this year. We could probably start it this year and do some testing. Uh, I have I fished the spinning reel briefly. I tested it out and then I gave it away. And I think Darius, I don't know if you ever used that spinning reel or if you just passed it on, but I think Darius, you were the winner of the spinning reel. Does that sound right? Um, it was fine. It was nothing super exciting. It's decent reel, good reel for $100, I think. Um, and then I still have the bait one of the bait casters on my topwater rod that I throw poppers on. I have it on a Fury. It's a long casting reel. They're smooth. I would say that I actually have to crank up the brakes more on that Dobbins reel to tame it in than some of my other stuff. um, but I mean, for $100, solid reel. I'm not going to pretend like it's the greatest $100 reel in the world, but like it's in the conversation with the Fuego and the SLX and some of those for sure. Um, uh, Facebook is what boomers like me use. Lost in Tackle. Nice. Uh, yeah, I definitely like. I am more about the rods than in the reels, but the reels they're solid. I definitely have a relationship with Dobbins. I don't stunt. Yeah, that's the thing, Gator. Right? I'm looking for somebody that is interested in outdoors fishing and has a knack for video editing that wants to grow with me. Right? So uh, for Vixens, George, I like a 733, like 733 Fury or 733 Savvy. I have used Sunline Shooter. I like the 20. A lot of times I use 22-pound shooter on my dock rod for jigs. I've got some of the 16, 18, and 22-pound shooter. It's good stuff. Wow. I still have a package of bacon that I cooked up one. Well, actually, we used one of your bacon right when we were there. I have not cooked up your other package of bacon yet, AJ. I need to do that. I have a preference for Da Vinci Resolve. That's what I use. Lost and Tackle. And that would be my preference so that if there are things that we need to work on back and forth, we're on the same platform, but I could be persuaded. Yeah, the Fury or the Sierra 733. I like that little bit longer rod for throwing spooks and vixens and walking baits and be able to really send it out there. And the Sierras have that little bit softer action, and I fish my topwaters on braid, so but you can also a little bit adjust with your drag if you like to throw braid like I do, then having a little bit of give when you pull into them, that can you can adjust that without you always don't have to do that with the rod action. Yeah, the Caden also a good option for sure. I just haven't tried that rod, but I could see where that rod would be a good topwater rod as well. Being 7-1 probably makes it a good option to go back. So I throw like my popper on the 703, and I like to throw the walking baits on a 733, but a 713 would fall right in between those. No, I made spaghetti for the family tonight. Fish Brian. I have so many Vixens. I have a whole box dedicated to Vixens. How did you catch them? How did you and Aaron catch them in the Jude to get the last check, Brian? I haven't heard. We haven't talked. Did you have largemouth, smallmouth, sand, wing dams, topwaters, jerk baits? Sea rigs. Uh, for jerk baits, for a long time, I really liked the 704 CB, not the glass version, but I have been finding myself drifting more to the 705 CB. Um, Now I had a crankbait on my 705 this week, so I was throwing the 704. So I fluctuate between the 704 and 705 CB um, champ rods. I have not tried the Fury 705 CV. I really want to because I feel like that probably is a pretty good rod for a lot less money. Michael, my team partner, he bought that Cadence 610-4 CB, and he said he really likes that as a jerkbait rod. And that's a pretty popular jerkbait rod, especially if you like that sub 7 foot rod, which some people don't like a 7 footer for jerkbaits. I like to throw it on 12-pound big game is what I've been the last 2 seasons using my jerkbaits. Current breaks, vixens, and swim jigs. Spider is talking about fishing in Division 3 next year, the Opens. Yeah, I don't know. I've never. So when I bought my rods, my 704s are 10 years plus old. So the Cadence didn't exist, and neither did the Sierras back then. So I've been rocking the Champ XP 704s and 705s for years. I don't know. Here's what happened. 2.5 years ago, I put big game 12-pound. Actually, I put 15-pound on my 704 because I was using it for cranking on the Watchtower River around stumps, throwing square bills and flat sides and things like that. And I thought that would hold up to the stumps better. And if I was throwing fancy balsa crankbaits around stumps, mono would be more forgiving for getting those baits back, getting them to pop over, ride over stumps, things like that. Worked really well. I even put like mono on my chatterbait rod and my spinnerbait rods and things like that because I knew I was gonna be fishing super shallow, stumpy water in the Watchtower River. Fast forward to last year's spring river tournament, I was too lazy to change my line. So went to that tournament, threw jerk baits on 15-pound big game. We got second place. We caught all the fish on my rods. Fish Brian was there. He picked up one of my rods with a rearrange on it with 15-pound big game, just like me, and that's what we caught all our fish on. I've been doing it ever since. So cost effective. Um, it's been working. Nick likes the 610-4 for a jerkbait rod. I don't know for sure. So I did this on a stream a while ago, but this is an OG Vixen here, and this is a Gen 3 Vixen here. When these first came out, I kind of did like a side-by-side comparison and looked at them. To me, these pass the smell test. I have caught fish on the Gen 3s. There's no obvious differences to me fishing them. I do think the Gen 3s are a very valid option. I mean, for whatever, if you get these for like 20, 25 bucks versus these that are going for hundreds, um, I think your money is well spent with the Gen 3. Now, the Gen 2s that are in the middle there, they're a little different. But the line tie, all the positionings, like the Gen 2 definitely is different than these, but the Gen 3 and the Gen 1 are pretty darn close. So I would endorse the Gen 3 as a contender and a good option. Nick just got a Gen 3 Vixen. Definitely have caught fish on my Gen 3 Vixen. I like to throw them in practice a lot. Uh, I have a 684 CB. I use that for like my if I'm going to throw a 110 junior style, a little bit smaller jerk bait, that'll throw those smaller jerk baits a little better. For my full size jerk baits, I'll usually go to the 704. I have never used XT. I pretty much only have ever used Big Game, Chad. Can't speak to XT. I think mono in good mono is underrated. I think we've become a little fluoro washed in our last 2 decades. Um, I've got a Dreamwalker as well. Depends. They're complete. I mean, they're both walking baits, but a vixen is loud and obnoxious and makes a huge ruckus. The Dreamwalker is very subtle. It's like a silent. It its action walking in the water is very much like a what's the lucky crab Sammy. It's like a silent Sammy. It's like a wood Sammy. The vixen is very much a loud plastic, commotion driven. So they're I mean they're both walking baits, but they can be very different. If you got a lot of pressured fish, calm conditions, something like that Dreamwalker can be really good. If you need to call fish from a long ways, you've got aggressive fish, angry fish. The Vixen can be very good. Yeah, hopefully they're biting it, Nick. Good luck. Fish Brian says big game is way stronger than XT. I think big game is also like if you go 12-pound big game to XT, I think the caliper of big game is actually bigger. I haven't looked that up, but I think that's true. I have some kick knockers. Yeah. Uh I think the big game holds up to like zebra mussels, things like that, rocks. Um and if you're in a position where you're slamming jerk baits into like rocks and stumps and things like that, I think the big game helps you like navigate that and get your bait back easier because it can lift that bait a little bit. I've heard good things about Yozuri. I haven't fished it. Yeah, I believe that's true as well. South Jersey, 12-pound big game is probably like 15-pound XT. Teckle Kickknocker is supposedly came out of the same molds as the OG Vixens. That's my understanding. A 9,000 yard spool of XL. I have some really giant spools of old uh, silver thread and 40 that are just sitting in my basement. Yeah, 15-pound big game is beastly. That's what I throw most of my bladed jigs, chatterbaits on. Good night, Mr. Spade. Good luck this weekend if you go fishing. Let me see, like how big are these? Let me be right back. Oh, it does have the label on it. Look at that. 30-pound silver thread and 40 in green. This is all, not necessarily 30-pound, but green and 40 is all I ever used back in the day. Then I have 14-pound. This is a 3,000 yard spool. But I've used this. This one's actually been used quite a bit. So any AN 40 fans that really want some bulk AN 40, let me know. But this is all me and Pops used to use for probably a decade was AN 40. I heard Frank talking about it on BTL the other day, saying this was his favorite line. Wet knot strength. New improved wet knot strength. 3,000 yards, 14-pound. I used to frog with 30 pound and 40. Well, you'd like hit them and you just feel that like rubber band like load up and all of a sudden the fish just pop up. Awesome. Gabe in the house. Yeah, yeah. DT out of prison. We just gave all the juicy tips about how to catch fish on your pools of the river, Dustin. You have to go back and watch the replay. The TBF semifinal, which was 2 weeks ago, I want to say we were 38, 39 boats, just Wisconsin and Minnesota. Iowa ended up going with Nebraska and South Dakota. They left our region. Don't let Bossman know you're watching from work, Dustin. Good luck, Darius. Yeah, I need to go to the office tomorrow. It was very high was a good line. $108, Illinois and Indiana. Your TBF must be much bigger. Up here, the Bass Nation dominates the numbers. The TBFs are just much smaller up here. Nebraska dominant. Did you fish that semis, AJ? Mr. Leuenberger. Are you still throwing all spinning rods, Jesse? Or have you converted to start throwing bait casters? It's been a long time since we fished together. I remember, if I remember correctly, you and I fished Pool 9 out of Lansing when we used to mix the clubs up. And I had just found out what a swim jig was back then. And we just fished the eelgrass lines just south of Lansing. And we caught the fire out of them. Them fish could not resist a white swim jig back, but this was like 20 plus years ago. Fall jerkbait, I guess anytime. I basically throw a Dobbin 704 CB or a 705 12-pound big game, and then Jackal rear range is my favorite jerkbait by far. I got one hit in practice on the Minnesota rig in practice on the river. I should have thrown it in the tournament. I think Wyatt and Bart caught some fish on a rig. But yeah, I should have thrown it more. Probably get out. I think Aaron, Dream Team, Aaron Davis and I go out with some. We're gonna do some late October, early November smallmouth on Mille Lacs. We'll probably get the old Minnesota rig fired up for that. A little spike in viewership. Now we're kind of cooling off here. All right, we're at 90 minutes. I feel like we've exhausted the chat for the solo. I can only talk so much without a guest. I've got a couple things lined up the next few weeks. I think we'll probably have Kyle Patrick on, one of the guys that are in contention for the Bassmaster EQs. I told him I didn't want to bother him when he had the Harris chain coming up, so we'll touch base with him afterwards. I've got a guy, a biologist that I want to have on, talking about Alabama spotted bass and some of the ramifications of them getting spread with bucket biology. A few other guests and that kind of stuff. So those are some of the things we're working on. Yeah. Take care, Jesse. Thanks everybody that showed up. If you missed the beginning, go back, catch the replay for the juicy tidbits, whether you're listening on your MP3 podcast, Facebook, YouTube. Always appreciate it. And as always, here to help you guys catch more big bass and suck less.